You caught me about to have my morning snack there. I do like apples, do you? Lovely rosy red skin and that crunch you get as you bite into them. But I really prefer pears. There's none in my fruit bowl at the moment, but I do like juicy honey sweet pears at this time of year. And it reminds me of a story that I know called the Magic Pear Tree. The Magic Pear Tree is a Chinese folk tale, and it gives us lessons like sharing, not being too greedy, good lessons like that, and kindness. That's a very important one, isn't it? Yeah. So let me tell you that story because I think it's one you'll enjoy. A long time ago. This was a really long time ago. There was a Chinese farmer who had been growing pear trees all year long. He'd got a really good crop this year and he'd stacked them all up on a market stall down at the fruit market. He was ready to sell them and he knew he was going to make a good profit that day. As he was stood there selling the pears to people as they passed, he saw a pauper and the pauper saw him. Now a pauper is somebody who's quite poor, maybe doesn't have enough to eat themselves and certainly doesn't have a house to live in. And this pauper, he went up to the Chinese farmer who was selling the pears and he said, please could you just spare one pear just for me? The farmer looked down at the pears, ripe and juicy and ready to sell. And then he looked at the pauper and he said, no, if you have no money, you cannot buy a pear. So what was the pauper to do? He walked on and he sat down by the road and waited for others to pass who would perhaps give him a morsel of food to eat. Now there was another man who had seen what had happened and he went to the pear farmer and he bought a pear and he took it down the road to the pauper and he gave it to the pauper. And he said, here, eat well today. And the pauper thanked him and he ate the pear and he enjoyed it. But he saved the seeds from the pear. And what he did was he went to just beside the farmer's pear cart and he dug a little hole and he planted the seeds in the hole. And he watered the seeds and he sat by them day after day and he waited for that little pear tree to grow, and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew faster than any pear tree that the pear farmer had seen before, until it was an enormous tree that overshadowed the market stall that had all the pears on it. And indeed the flowers came out and they started to turn to pears. And when there was a tree full of pears, the pauper, he pulled them down and he gave them to everybody that passed, and he did not ask for 1 penny for them. Now the farmer, he wasn't pleased because he couldn't sell his pears anymore, and he too had to give away his pears. But I tell you what, everybody in the village ate that day and they all had a wonderful, magnificent pear feast. That's the story of the Magic Pear Tree. It's a traditional Chinese folk tale and I hope that you enjoyed it. I've sent you some activities that you can do for this, and one of them is making pear and honey pancakes. Oh, delicious. I hope you'll enjoy doing them. And don't forget, when you're out and about on your adventures, look out for stories under bridges, in cupboards, up trees. Who knows where they'll be next? Make sure you let me know if you find one. And I'll see you next time. Toodle pip.